Thank you, Dr. Mills. Good evening. I'm Pete Tesh, and I'm happy to be your moderator this evening. As Dr. Mills mentioned, if you do have questions that you would like to ask our next candidate, please have them passed forward. Also, you should have a candidate interview sheet, so it's very important that you complete that and return that at the end of the session, and I'll ask you that question again. So we're delighted to have Mr. Wayne Gent here as our candidate. And before we go into the question and answer session, we would like Mr. Gent to come up here and spend about 2 or 3 minutes with some introductory remarks. But first, how about a round of applause? Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Pete. Thank you. I'm okay? Everybody can hear me? Okay. Very good. Well, thank you for being here this evening. It's been a very, very long day, and one I was looking forward to. I want to introduce my wife. She was here a moment ago. She just snuck out. Okay. All right, that always happens. Anyway, I brought my wife up here with me. I am Wayne Gent, and there she is, coming in with the blue jacket on. There is my wife, Alicia, and so we've been here all day. We have 2 boys. We have and what is he, 17? He's going to be 17 in a week, a junior in high school, and we have an 8th grader. I call him the drummer. He's in music in the band, and he's a drummer. I have been fortunate to be in education for many years, and for 20 years was in St. Lucie County and served in a different capacity. Started at Fort Pierce Central as a social studies teacher and a basketball coach, became assistant principal. Worked at Port St. Lucie High School as assistant principal, opened up Forest Grove as principal, and went to then Westwood High School. We're able to do some very positive things for Westwood and for the students in Westwood and the community. Was selected to go and work for Frank Brogan at the Commissioner of Education as the principal in residence. Came back to St. Lucie County and opened up St. Lucie West Middle School. At that time it was just a 6 through 8 middle school. And then went to Palm Beach County, where I've served the last 15 years as an area superintendent, as an assistant superintendent for curriculum, as a principal of Dwyer High School. Was asked to go in and turn Dwyer High School around. Had a great opportunity doing that, going from a C to an A, maintained for 2 years, went back to area superintendent, became the interim superintendent, and then was selected as the superintendent, and where I've currently been serving for the last 3 years. My contract was up to be renewed, or up at the end of the summer, or in the middle of the summer, really. And my wife and I, we've done some really positive things in Palm Beach County. Our graduation rate with all of our groups, our African American males, particularly, we had a 5.5% increase this year, but our graduation rate overall is the highest of all the urbans. We compare ourselves to the urban school districts, which is Miami and Broward and Hillsborough. We passed a referendum to continue to fund 530 teachers in the arts, and we also had the highest percentage, so we had 80% of our high schools were A's and B's. We were at a very good place, and it was really ready for a new challenge, not a retirement whatsoever, but a new challenge and a new opportunity, and decided, when saw that St. Lucie was open, applied because of the history that I've had here, because of the community itself, which is very near and dear to me, and I'm looking forward to this process today, and hopefully I'll see you all again in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Gent. The first question, St. Lucie District is a evolving district, and assume that you have done due diligence. What are the 2 to 3 opportunities you see for improvement, and what would you do?
I think, first off, we'll compliment St. Lucie County with the graduation rate that happened this year, because all of the high schools, Lincoln Park stumbled just a tad, but that probably represented less than 3 or 4 students. But the other high schools, I see we got folks here from Treasure Coast. I think Treasure Coast came in at, I believe, 80, in the high 80s, 83% possibly, and then followed by Fort Pierce Central came in second, and then it was followed by Treasure Coast, and then you had Centennial. So I think that the graduation rate itself is, we want to continue to improve on that. So there obviously were successes there. I also know that the grading system, which is very controversial, that within your high schools themselves you would have had the 3 A's, but because of the increase in the standards and changes at Tallahassee, which always happened, there were some B's, and then one school was penalized with a C as well. So I think we focus on the graduation rate because our core mission is teaching and learning. So that would be the heavy emphasis, as well as developing, and it's something that I've talked about all day, a very positive school culture where we are the advocates, and every child that comes into the school center has an advocate for that child. Many of the parents know how to navigate the system, but many parents do not know how to navigate that system or are afraid to navigate or come out to work in our schools. So I think community engagement and parent involvement is crucial as well.
What are 4 elements of a successful school?
Number 1 is caring teachers, an active community, an eye on student achievement, focusing on the data, and a warm, inviting place with strong customer service where you want to be actively involved in the community, not just with parents, but with community and businesses.
Your thoughts on school-based management?
The principal is the king of the ship, and the principal have high expectations for the principal. The principal is the lead figure. The relationships that are developed between the principal and the rest of the students, or particularly their instructional staff, has more effect on student outcomes and the culture of that school than any other thing. You can have great teachers, and they change it, but if you don't have that strong leadership at that school where teachers are valued and teachers' input is valued, and you develop a culture of the school, then you will not succeed or have the success rates that you need to have in that school center.
Thank you, and I'm glad you didn't ask me what school-based management was.
Okay.
How open will you be to accepting recommendations from community partners that will make our schools better?
Very open, because the District of Palm Beach is huge, and everyone knows that. But I prided myself in being very visible, very accessible in that community, whether it's in the Glades, whether it's in Boca to Jupiter, whatever. It's the largest geographic county in east of the Mississippi. And community involvement is important to me. I've developed partnerships with our local businesses and industry, partnerships with our institutions of higher learning, partnerships with our faith-based organizations, and it's partnerships that I take pride in being the upfront, the person that they speak with and talk to, and not have a middle person involved in that. So that's very important. We have 41 municipalities in St. Lucie County, 41, some of which have, or the majority of which have school-age children. And so I attend those meetings. I have the cell numbers of the mayors and county commissioners, as well as the council persons, and whether it's in the Glades or whether it's in Boca or whether it's in the middle of the county, really pride myself on being accessible and reaching out to them and getting their input and their involvement to help our schools be successful.
What's your plan to bring up the lower performing schools in our district?
That's our biggest challenge, is to help those students that have the biggest struggles. And the main plan starts with the culture of the school center, that the culture of that center is established. You have a circle, and you've got academics, and you've got behavior, and you have the climate of the school. And that we've got to have a culture that's established, that it's a caring culture, that we care about our students. It's easy to talk about, but you know it when you see it. Just like when your children go into a classroom, they know in a minute if they've got a teacher that cares, and they know that somebody that they can count on. And so it has to start at that level.
Here's another great question. What efforts have you led in meeting the needs of teachers and students in early childhood?
I had the opportunity to establish an early childhood department in Palm Beach County. Also working, I know we have Children's Service Council here. We established that department. We've trained our teachers. We have over 100 classrooms throughout the community. We partner with Children's Service. We partner with Head Start. Common sense dictates, and one of these days maybe our state legislature will get it, that if we do not start at the early age, we're still going to continue to have the problems that we have. So it's a high priority for me, and would be here in St. Lucie County if I'm fortunate enough to be here.
Thank you. What have you done to improve school grades, and how have you increased graduation rates?
It's not what I have done, it's what we've done as a team. We do have the highest graduation rates of the urbans, and I'm proud of that. We also have the highest graduation rates of our subgroup students, of the children of color. We monitor the data. We have weekly data meetings where we look at what's happening in the school. We're looking at what's happening and break it down by the individual teacher. It's not that we want to hammer the teacher or hurt the teacher or the school, just the opposite. We want to see what can we do and what support can we bring in there. As I said before, we've got the highest percentage of A's and B's of the urban districts, and even with increased standards, we're able to maintain that. So it's really a team effort with quality control at the district level, working with our teachers, training our teachers on data. I think the teachers are getting very savvy now on data and being able to go in and look at assessments and seeing how their students are performing, go back and reteach that, just like we, you can take your driver's test as many times as you need to, and by the time you pass it, that we don't give up on any child, and that we go back, reteach what needs to be taught. We're data-driven, but we consider the needs of the entire child, the social and emotional needs as well, that are just as important.
How would you lead the district to ensure that instruction and assessment are aligned and instructional time is protected from over-assessment?
Well, the state is over-assessed. There's no doubt about that. As superintendent and belonging to the Superintendent's Association, have spoken to the State Board of Education and to state legislatures on more than one occasion to get them to slow down. And I'm going to make this point very clear. I'm not opposed to the Florida standards. I'm not opposed to the rigor that's involved with that, but it needs to be implemented over a period of time and not just done in one swelled swoop, because our children are going to suffer and our schools are going to suffer. And then we monitor that, but we try to make those connections with the legislatures to try to pause what they're doing right now so that our teachers can be adequately trained and not be beaten up, protect their time, and give them quality resources from the district, as well as what the schools. You've got to listen to the teachers in the front line, because they can tell you what's right and what's working. Sometimes in policy and policy making, we fail to listen to those that are closest to the issue. And as a superintendent in Palm Beach, I've tried to do that in any of my roles, even as principal, to listen to those that are closest to it, to try to come up with the solutions ourselves.
Excellent. You may need to help me with these acronyms, at least for the audience and the viewing audience. Now that the LAFS and MAFS have been released and implemented, thank you, statewide, what vision do you have for the upcoming science standards rollout for St. Lucie County?
Okay. The science rollout, what's my vision? First of all, I would have to come in and see what the trend has been and where it started and what growth has gone there. I'm not that familiar with those standards, in all honesty. We've got our science scores are really off the chart in many of our schools in Palm Beach County, but I think you have to come in and see what the data has shown, what the trend has shown, and then develop that plan of action after carefully looking at that. So I just haven't had an opportunity to see that.
Okay. Can somebody tell us what LAFS and MAFS, and I apologize for being a layperson, but just for clarification.
Is it the Florida? Is it Language Arts Florida Standards? So we call it the ELA, the English Language Arts Standards. Okay.
Thank you. What have you learned about St. Lucie schools in your research, and what would you seek to improve or perhaps eliminate?
In the research that I've done, I've looked at the graduation rates. I've seen the successes at the fourth grade level that the students in fourth grade had a higher proficiency than other areas, or there's a higher percentage there. That in your DA schools, I believe 9 out of the 11 DA schools have made significant gains. I think you were one of only 11 counties in the state of Florida that had improvement on all of your end-of-course exams. So I've only seen that, from monitoring the data and looking at that. And that's something that is very, very important, and something that we would, turn over every rock if I was fortunate enough to be the superintendent to really look at that data. I am a data-driven person. I think we have to be in today's age, and that we have to train our administrators and we have to train our teachers to do that as well.
What are your expectations of your teachers, and do you believe teachers need a pay raise?
Yes, I think that teachers across the state are underpaid. I think that the current funding system from our state legislatures pales in comparison to other states, no matter what the rhetoric is that sometimes that we hear, because with funds that come from the state are so categorical, where there's not the flexibility for the district to utilize them in an area that they may, it's really home control and home rule, which I wish we had more of, where the local decisions could be made at the local level with the school board and with the community, as opposed to the state dictating that. So our teachers underpaid, absolutely.
How will you increase student achievement?
I think student achievement is a team effort that starts at the individual school level. with a heavy emphasis on really at the pre-K level, starting at early childhood, working with community organizations as well, monitoring the data, but meeting, first of all, the emotional, social needs of the children, that we are the advocates for them, especially for those that don't run the interference. Some parents know how to do that. I mean that in a positive sense. You all that are here are actively engaged in the process, or you wouldn't be sitting here. There's 260,000 folks out there that aren't here tonight, many of them which have child-age children. So we have to be the advocates for those children that don't have one.
How would you work with government and community leaders on economic development?
Okay.
I didn't put that question in.
Past performance in Palm Beach County, I've worked very closely with the Economic Council, with the Business Development Board, have invited them in our schools, have branded our school centers, would work very, very closely with them. One of the things that I'm proud of in my tenure in Palm Beach County, particularly as superintendent, is that I personally made those contacts with the chambers of commerce, with the 41 municipalities, with the major municipalities and the key players within that. Open our schools up, look at our curriculums, look at our career academies, or look at our magnet programs to make sure that we're aligned to that. Let's see what the emerging trends are and the emerging businesses that are coming into St. Lucie County, and make sure that we align our curriculums and our programs and expand them if needed, or develop new ones if needed to meet that demand.
What is your philosophy on school turnaround?
As far as the turnaround program for underperforming schools?
I would assume that would
Okay.
be the interpretation.
The turnaround program probably be for the schools that are performing at a lower level based upon the Florida standards or the accountability system. And those schools have to have more resources in them that would come from the district level. In Palm Beach County, we have our DA schools. Last year, we had a transformation teams. I established a separate transformation team just for the Glade schools, where you'll find some of the lowest poverty anywhere in the United States. But it's important that we come in and help support, not beat up the schools. The state legislatures sometimes, and folks, maybe not so much the legislators, but folks want to say we want to do sanctions. We want to sanction our school. Sanction is a term that you use when you want to sanction a foreign country because they're developing a nuclear weapon or because they are some kind of a terrorist organization. You want to sanction the schools that need the most help and support. So I've got a very good track record of offering the county the resources within the school district, as well as with the outside organizations, to put the support into those schools that most need it.
Would you be able and willing to help with schools having more programs available to give students an opportunity to do more career-based activities and learn things that will provide them with real-life experiences?
Yes. We have 252 career academies in Palm Beach County right now. The challenge is that many of the students that you want to get in front of that are bogged down because of academic performance, where they're in an additional reading class or they're in an additional mathematics class, and then they're not afforded that opportunity to be in that program, whether it's the art program or whether it's an aerodynamic program or whatever that academy is or whatever that program is at that school center. And the students have to see that. They have to see, they just can't be stuck in those programs, and that represents a major challenge because students have to go. If they're at a certain level, they've got by state statute to be in certain classes, and that denies them opportunities to really get into courses that they would want to be in. So that's a challenge that we face in Florida everywhere.
What organizational management techniques do you use to unify district departments and schools so that clear, consistent messages are conveyed to teachers despite the mandated state and federal requirements?
I think that we have to recognize, first off, that our teachers and our school level folks are under tremendous, tremendous pressure and tremendous stress based upon the new standards that are coming down, because in my opinion, they're coming down too fast and too quick, and that it takes a 2 to 3 year implementation to do that. Give me the second part of the question.
This would be so that clear, consistent messages are conveyed to teachers despite the mandated state and federal requirements.
That's where we've got to offer, and the key word being quality, the quality support in the schools to help those teachers navigate that. And that's something that I've stressed in some of the other meetings today, that we offer the support to them to get the training that's needed. We're shifting to more rigor. Do teachers know what that looks like? Where they have to adjust their instructional style? Do they know what that takes? And we've got to be able to go in there and support them and not beat them up because it's happening so rapidly, but give them the quality support that's needed to help support them and the principals as well.
This is a related question to what you answered earlier, but asked a different way. Assuming you have done your research on St. Lucie County Public Schools, what are 2 to 3 areas you would improve and how?
I think we focus on teaching and learning, that we make sure that our students are making a year's worth of growth, that we look at our graduation rate, that we want to continue that trend, and we look at schools that may be lagging in that area and see what needs to be done in those school centers. So it's really looking at the data and looking at the trend lines.
What ideas do you have to build an effective team in our school system? And this includes the players of staff, unions, communities. And then the second question is, what type of a leader are you?
Okay. Well, the type of leader I am is that I'm authentic and that I'm sincere and I truly care about others and I see values in others. I have a high standards. I believe that excellence should be expected and not come about by accident. I hold high standards, this question was asked before, of those in key leadership positions, that we are here to serve others. We are here to offer quality leadership and support. So I've answered the second half of the question first. You got to repeat the first part of the question.
This is about how would you build an effective team?
You build an effective team. It's so important because, number one, I believe it has to start with trust, and that we have to develop trust. And how do you get trust is you get results. You become credible, and then trust comes along, and your team has to be, you have to have that trust. You can't have silos. Even, I have a huge district. We've tried to break down the silos that are there, and I'm sure even though the district is smaller, we still have the same challenges that are there. Are we duplicating services? Are we united as a team? It's easy to talk about. I have a slogan on my wall in my office that says, organizations are no longer built on force, but they're built on trust. And that's something that I try to model. Now, when you're trusting, you get burned sometimes because some folks think you're up to something. Some folks think, well, there's got to be a hidden agenda here. And I have things, I'm authentic. I have things on my wall that say, I won't ask for your trust if I can't give it back in return. And I think it starts there.
What are your thoughts on art education, arts integration, and arts integration?
Well, since I have an 8th grade drummer, I'm into the arts. It's very important for our students. It's an important piece. You've got your magnet school of the arts here or over in the Fort Pierce. We just saw Patrick Madden out here that was at the other session, and he's built a great program there. In Palm Beach County, our community and voters saw the importance of the arts when the recession hit, and many districts were cutting back on the art programs. We did a $250,000 referendum that funded 530 teachers to continue every PE teacher, every art teacher, every music teacher, and some of our career academy teachers and magnet programs to keep that alive. And then, as I mentioned earlier, our voters saw fit to renew that just this past November with 79% of the vote. So I'm an advocate. It's a way for kids to be expressive, to share themselves. They may not be, my son is very, very witty and very smart. If he's not actively engaged by a teacher, he will shut down. But he's brilliant. But his skill set is in the arts and in the music field. Unfortunately, it's drums.
Well, I have a costume designer
Yeah.
as a daughter, so we really appreciate the arts. This last question is is disability related and regarding restraints, and also with the Department of Education oversight. There's a high rate of restraint of those with disabilities. How would you address a possible review and change to current district policy being practiced as an intervention as opposed to a last resort option?
I would have to look at what the policy is here. I'm not familiar with that. I know that in Palm Beach County, we do have a restraint policy. It was recently changed. I get a report each week on the restraints that are done in the school centers, and we monitor that. My area superintendents monitor as well, and we discuss that to see if there are any spikes in different areas. It's a tough area. The children present challenges, but you want to do all the interventions you can before you have to do the physical restraint, but it's something that we monitor. I think we have a good policy, and I'd be interested in looking at the policy here as well to see how that would need it to be changed, if it needed to be changed.
These are follow-up questions, and this one regards disability awareness in all classes and community inclusion. How would you propose to address more program implementation or enhancement of those programs already in place?
I think one place to start is to talk to the parents that their children are served in our school district, and to hear from the parents on what are we doing well and what do we need to improve on, and not just in the area of disability, but the other areas as well, that those that are closest to the issue and suffer, have many challenges that they have. What can we do as a school system? I'd be interested to see it through their lens on what we're doing well and what we could improve on.
And then ESEA reauthorization, can you comment on that, please?
That's at the federal level, and there's some changes up there, particularly when they're looking at title schools and whether the dollars follow the school or whether the dollar follow the child, that are very concerning. I know that we use the same lobbyist, Vern Crawford, that gives us the information, and it's something that we have to constantly monitor and then utilize his resources, as well as if you need to do call to actions to get the community involved with that. Sometimes it moves a lot slower at the federal level, and sometimes that's a good thing so that they don't mess up something that may be working already.
Thank you. Are there any more cards to be submitted? Okay. Jim.
Go ahead.
Great. I was just going to say, if you please, would you join me with a warm round of applause for Mr. Gent and the time that he spent. Thank you for coming here. Yes, and Wayne, you have one more opportunity for some closing comments. Again, thank you for coming this evening. And please, if you have the comment interview form, please complete that and return that to Dr. Mills or Ms. Howley or Mr. Hughes, or even I'd take it. So thank you.
Well, I just want to say it's been a great day. It's been great to come back to the county. I've never been in the building. This is a beautiful, beautiful boardroom, and one that hopefully maybe I'll be working in if the board so sees fit. The fact that you're here tonight, I know I see some friends here, but I also see members, folks, old faces that I've known, as well as new faces that you're involved in the school system and you want what's best for your kids. So I want to thank you for coming out this evening. I want to be the next superintendent in St. Lucie County. I started here. I've worked hard here. I've worked hard somewhere else, but it's a passion of service, of giving back to others. It really just comes down to that simple. There's so many challenges that we all face, and there was just something special about St. Lucie County to me. It's given me many, many positive experiences. I like to come and give back, and not for a short period of time, but for a long period of time. You've had a succession of great superintendents, one sitting over here, I believe. Bill Vogel was somewhere here that served. Then Mike Lannon and Mrs. Yost, Superintendent Yost, has stepped in and done a fantastic job. I would like to keep that succession going. I promise to be accessible, someone that you can talk to, someone that will try to cut through bureaucratic barriers to help our children. We all want the same thing. We want our children to be successful. No matter where they come to us from, we all want that, and we can work together with it. I'm committed to doing that. That's my passion. It's why I'm standing here in front of you today, and I hope that I would get that opportunity. And again, thank you for coming out this evening, and thank you for not being too tough with your questions as well. And I wish you a very good evening, and hopefully I'll be able to talk to you in the future as well. So thank you so much.
Standing, you're welcome to come up and